What's going on, you guys? It's your man J Immanuel back with a new episode of Multiply Your Sales. And today I'm joined by a very, very lovely guest, my girl Avern. What's going on with you?
Hey Jay, what's going on? So happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh man, I'm so grateful to have you on here. Got to give a shout out to my girl Andrea for, connecting us, recommending you, having you come on the show. And I know this is going to be a great, great experience, yo. So with that in mind, we're going to be talking about how coaches can develop their self-confidence and ultimately land some more clients. And I want to kick things off by getting your take. Why do you think some coaches tend to struggle with remaining confident?
That's a very loaded question, but I think the first bit that we're going to get to is that it first starts with
Yeah.
your identity.
Mm,
The deeper that you understand yourself and the more accepting that you are of self, the easier it is for you to show up unapologetically. So a lot
yeah.
of us are currently, either coming out of identity crises or mastering a new identity, or as I like to say, if you have an identity in yourself versus if you have an identity in Christ, that's two different levels
Mm,
of understandings of who you are, right?
right.
So just straight out the bag, a lot of what I believe when it comes to self-confidence is rooted in purpose and it's rooted in why we are
Mhm.
created. And so when it comes to having that self-confidence, it first starts with who do you believe that you are at the core and why do you believe
Mhm.
that?
No, that's good. That's good. And kind of looking at your own personal journey, can you take us back to a time when you were struggling with your self-confidence as a coach? And what did that look like for you?
For sure. So I actually got into the coaching industry after I was let go from my job. So can you imagine being
Okay.
let go from your job and the basis
Yeah.
of being let go from your job is them telling you that you're not good at your job, right? To now getting
Right.
into a new industry where you're leading people and you're carrying the weight of the
Mm,
whispers, you're carrying the weight of the
mhm,
naysayers, you're carrying the weight of your past failures. And now you have to come to a point of recognizing, is this really who I am? Like, am I
right.
always going to not be good at what I'm doing? Am I always going to be seen as a weak link? Am I always going to be the lesser and not the one who's leading? And so when I first started out in coaching, like I remembered I made my first investment with my first coach. It was a five
Hmm.
figure investment, okay? And
Wow, that ain't no little bit.
that was no little bit, but let me tell you, it radically transformed my mindset. It's like the scripture that
Mm,
be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that was a thing that I needed. I didn't need a sales strategy. I didn't
mm,
need content strategy. I didn't need an offer build before I understood how to renew my mind. So coming into the
mm,
coaching industry, I was just let go from my job, and it was really a radical shift that I had to make if I wanted to swim. Because you're either going to sink or swim in
mm.
this online space,
Right.
right? And so that's where I
Facts.
kind of started when I came in to the whole online space.
Okay. And kind of going into, like that whole experience of hiring a coach, that's something that we've talked about, on the podcast previously before.
Mhm.
Yet when you look at it, there are still a lot of people who are apprehensive about making that investment. What would you say to the coaches that are listening who have heard multiple times that, they should consider getting a coach, but for whatever reason, they still have yet to make that investment?
First of all the greats have a coach.
Right.
Like all the mentors have a mentor. So why do you
Hmm.
think that you don't need a mentor or you don't need a coach? Right? And so I
Right.
think that it's part of like an ego and a pride thing. And it's also a state of comparison. And we have to ask
Mhm.
ourselves, like, there's this prophet who I listen to, and he says, you're either going to spend time doing something or you might as well buy time saving time. So we have to ask
Mm,
ourselves, like, are we willing to use the time that we have to DIY it
mhm.
ourselves, or are we willing to spend the money that we have so that we can
Right.
maximize that time actually making the money, the impact that we desire? So for those who are
Mhm.
on the fence and trying to decide like if they should get a sales coach or if they should get a leadership coach or if they should get a content coach or whatever coach it is that they need, you have to ask yourself, what price are you willing to pay? Because whether you take an action towards investing in a coach or you take an action towards DIYing it yourself, it's both going to cost you
Mhm.
something. So what's the cost that you're willing to pay?
Yeah, that reminds me of, a principle that I always keep in the back of my mind, which is, counting the costs before you make a decision. It's vitally important. And I would say even more so for the coaches out there because yeah, it's gonna cost you something. Every decision you make does. And the question is, are you willing to, essentially put up that cost or pay that cost of what it's, what it will eventually come back to cost you.
Yeah, it's like you
uh,
saying choose your hard, like which hard are you going to choose?
mhm,
Like life is going to be hard, whichever path
right.
you take, but the road is
It is.
narrow. Okay, choose
Mhm.
that one. It's a little bit harder, but you got to choose the
Right.
one that's going to require you to apply yourself that will, in the long run, get you those
Mhm.
results. And I think just to kind of add a little bit more to that, I think we look
Mhm.
at the instant gratification versus the long term goals. And so when
Mhm.
we say, like, okay, if I get a coach right now, oh, this coach needs to help me make $5,000 in 10 days. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, do you know
Right.
how much layers of undoing and rebuilding and, shifting and breaking through has to happen in order for you to get sustainable results, not one hit wonders? So,
Mhm.
I think that the expectations also have to be really reassessed because it's
Yeah.
like, it's ridiculous out here.
It is. It definitely is. And going back to the experience that you had with your coach, what would you say, if there is one thing that made you say, okay, this five-figure investment is now officially worth it? I feel like this is the ROI, the return on my investment. What was that for you?
For me, it was me measuring how much I applied myself. I know that might
Mm.
sound interesting, but it was from the perspective that she gave the value. She showed up every
Mhm.
every session, and I seen other people who were in the program achieve the results. So I know that it's not
Mm.
the framework or her if it didn't work per se, but it's did
Mhm.
I apply myself
Mhm.
110% in my capacity and give everything that I have with my audience, with my pitching, with my showing up, with my overcoming my self-doubt and my beliefs and
Mhm.
all of this type of stuff. And so I would say my one thing would be assessing my performance, not
Mm.
necessarily just, oh, her framework doesn't work. And I think that's how a lot
Okay.
of people assess programs. The first thing that they're quick to do is blame a coach or blame something else when you have to first ask yourself, like, what did I get out of this based upon what I put into this?
Right, right. And that's what it's all about, right? Those inputs. People are often expecting the output, but then they don't ever take the time to focus on, what did you put in?
Correct.
So that's vitally important. And I appreciate you for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
Kind of going back to, the topic of self-confidence, what would you say are some misconceptions or some myths that coaches tend to believe about what's, hindering them from being confident?
That's a really good question. I think oftentimes we focus a lot on the outer appearance first, and
Mm,
we
okay.
focus on the shiny things versus
Mm-hmm.
fully understanding how we resonate to what we're doing. And how we resonate to
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing starts with our why, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I think about where our priorities are misaligned, we're focusing on the tangible things instead of asking myself, what are the intangibles, not only for me to gain, but that I have to
Mm-hmm.
possess? Because in
Right.
order to become the coach that you're desiring, the coach that you admire, the coach that you look up to, they had to embody before they produce, because you can
Right.
only deliver from a place of what you truly embody within. So I
Mhm.
believe that when it comes to coaches um, setting their priorities, yes, we can set the $10,000 a month goals. We can set the 2,000, new followers per month, or we can set that we want to have a podcast, a TikTok, a LinkedIn, and an Instagram.
Right.
But then we have to ask ourselves the question, why am I doing this? And at the core
Mhm.
of your why, that is what to me brings everything else out of you. Because once you have a
Right.
strong why, that is the anchor that holds you when you're going through the
Mhm.
trials, when you're going through the tribulations. That is what connects you when you're networking and you're meeting other people and you're truly like, building authentic relationships. But that is what also helped you to create impact because these are the people that you're truly trying to shift and support. So if
Right.
you have a why that's driven in ambition, selfish ambition, according to Philippians 3 and 2, like do nothing out of selfish ambition. So a lot of us are out here chasing figures, chasing status, chasing fame, chasing notoriety, chasing to be the next best thing, chasing to be seen instead of asking ourselves, what's my why? And the truth is, at the core of it all, if you find yourself in a circle going round and around and around, and you do not get
Mhm.
to my purpose is to give God glory at the end of it, then you've got a why found itself. So when
Mm.
coaches find themselves wanting to lead people, leading people is one of the most prestigious honors that you are going to have as a person. And the Bible tells us that we are going to be held accountable by
Right.
leading
That's
people.
real.
So if you are leading people not based upon biblical principle or based upon ethical standards, we are going to have to be held accountable based upon whatever standards it is that we utilize. And so I believe that and any coach that is out there trying to decide like how should I prioritize my leadership capacity, my leadership growth as I lead others, it's first getting your internal priorities in check before you even decide
Mm.
to hire a graphic designer or a content creator to come and shoot your content, because your content really it should be a reflection of your true character. you know
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Did
That
I
that's
answer
really
that
good.
question?
Yeah, you did. You did. Yo, you hit that one out the park. You knocked it out of there. And it kind of brings to mind, kind of sticking in line with the myths and the misconceptions. I want to get your take. Some coaches tend to believe that in order for them to be confident, it means that they should never have any doubts. They should never have any struggles. Do you feel like that's an accurate perception to have, or do you feel like that's a myth about what it means to be truly self confident?
Big myth, capital letters. But here's why. I believe it's a myth because for one, you're denouncing the fact that you're human.
Mm, mm.
Like you're not Jesus. Like you're not Iron Man. You're not, like listen, you're gonna have doubts. Even the best of the best have doubts. Even the best of the best
Mhm.
have stage fright. Even the best of the best
Right.
be like, are you sure my speech was good? I don't think my speech was good. So as
Mhm.
coaches, I believe that one of the most powerful emotional intelligence skill sets that you can have is the gift of vulnerability. Not
Mm,
vulnerability where you're bleeding on people, but vulnerability where you can tap into your experiences and you can find the treasure, the gold, the good in the lessons that you've been through and share with others. Hey, this is where I was, but this is not where I am because this is what I did. And that is what a coach
mm,
does. A coach guides you through, a coach leads you, and they have the framework for how did I come from this point A to point B. So I believe that when you face challenges, whether it's that, the launch failed and you didn't, quote unquote failed, the launch failed and you didn't have any signups, or, this person did a chargeback, or this person said something bad about your program, or this person said that your program isn't the best, or whatever the case may be, you have to see it as an opportunity for you to rise above and gain more authority, greater authority in who you are. And
Hmm.
this is why it goes back to a strong why, because when those self doubts come, it's going to shift you. And that's why we see a lot of people pivoting. That's why we see a lot of people leaving and quitting. And it's
Hmm.
because of the battle of the mind. It's because of what's being
Right.
told in the mind. So I would say the higher up you go in leadership, expect more of those thoughts. Expect
Mm-hmm.
more challenges. Expect more beliefs to come. Expect that you're always going to have to be on guard. Expect that you're going to have to be on guard, wake up, cover yourself, and then cover the people that you're leading. Because best believe anytime that you're making impact, you're a target.
Right. Wow, that's good. That's good. And to kind of leap from that, the confidence piece and connect it to what many coaches ultimately want, right? Which is more clients. How does being more confident ultimately lead to them landing more clients?
Well, first things first, people can tell if you're real or fake.
Facts.
People can tell if you're real or fake. So like your
Yeah.
energy,
Hmm.
and confidence comes from also knowing what you're about. So if
Mm.
you can continuously and consistently show up, repeat the things that people need, provide the solutions that people need, then people will begin to know you, like you, and trust you, like they say, right? But at the
Right.
cusp of it all, it is really you showing up as the person that you know your ideal client wants to become. Because they're
Hmm.
looking to see, like,
Hmm.
okay, who can I trust to help me become and attain the skill set that they have? Like a
Right.
lot of people come to me about public speaking, and a lot of people come to me about, confidence. One of my things is that I'm a dominant woman, and not dominant in the aspect of culture, but dominant in the
Hmm.
kingdom, because it says, be fruitful,
Hmm.
multiply, subdue, and dominate. And there's a different
Right.
perspective to domination of the kingdom versus culture, because culture thinks that you're aggressive, you're loud, you're boisterous, you're controlling, you're all these things. But domination in
Right.
the kingdom means to understand your God given authority and to walk out in that boldly and take over territory. So, women who are attracted to, hey, I am struggling with self doubt, I am struggling with self confidence, I am struggling with overcoming this sin or this issue that I went through, or seeing the good in this, I need help, they're attracted to that. So you attract
Mhm.
what you are.
Yeah, that's good. That's good right there. And with that in mind, what would you say are some of the mistakes that coaches tend to make when they are trying to land clients and they're not being authentically themselves, like you're mentioning?
Well, the number one mistake is to, how should I say this? The number one mistake is to cheat yourself out of what you know is already rightfully yours. In the essence
Mm,
that you shrink back, right?
mm,
You either beg,
okay.
or you either chase, or you either negotiate too low, or give them, what they're asking for. Like, you forget who you are. And that's the number
Hmm.
one thing. And so I
Okay.
find that, oftentimes me and my own mistakes, it's also this desire or this need to make money, or to say that you had this amount of clients, or to keep up with the
Hmm.
Joneses. And so you're just taking in and any client, or you're just charging in and any price, although you said that the price is 5,000, but you're willing to give 2,000 because they're saying, I can't. Now, if the Holy Spirit said, then let him lead you. But if it's just your self
Hmm.
confidence being doubtful, then we got a problem,
Right.
you know? So
That's
I
good.
think that's really the thing right there.
Yeah, that I think pricing and confidence are definitely linked. Especially when a person hasn't been able to consistently get paid the amount that they ultimately want to get paid. And to your point, if somebody comes with an amount that isn't what they want, but they're still like, "Ooh, it would still be nice to have that in my pocket," right? It's one of those things of, are you gonna stand on, your belief and your confidence that you should be getting paid this higher amount, or are you just going to essentially concede just to put some money in your pocket?
Yep, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
And I don't know how many coaches actually think about how that actually impacts their confidence. Sometimes they think, well, I got to the bag, but what's the, the consequence? What's the byproduct of that? It could be the fact that now, you start to feel like, think about it. Because if you say your price is 5, but using your example, you always get on a call and you end up closing every client at 2 or allowing them to talk you down to 2, at some point in your mind, you're gonna start to think, well, maybe I'm just a $2,000 coach, right? Like, at least that's the way I kind of
Hmm.
process it. Is that over time you're gonna be like, well, man, if that's all people are willing to pay me, that must be all I'm worth, as
Correct.
opposed to thinking about maybe you just working with the wrong people.
Right. And that's a great analogy because I myself, at one point of my journey, I'm now going into 3 years in business. So, like in the beginning when I started, let me give you
Congrats,
a little like funny story. Don't laugh too hard.
please. I love stories. Let's get it.
So, when I started my business, right? Well, when
Hmm.
I got let go, I was a company manager for a tech firm, and
Okay.
it was during COVID, so nobody was hiring. And I was like,
Mm.
well, I got bills to pay. What am I going to do? And I know that I
Right.
would always get on Instagram just to scroll, but I never followed like people who were actually online coaches. And one day I
Mm.
was scrolling and somehow somebody in my feed was an online coach. And I was like, hold
Hmm.
on. And I went to her page and then I went through her followers and then I saw there were more coaches. And I was like, what? What is this? Like, this is a feed? And then I started following people. And then before I know it, I'm in this world that I didn't even know existed because I was in corporate, right? And
Mm. Right.
another thing. Like, once you start focusing on one thing, that's all you continue to see. So, as a coach,
Hmm.
you have to ask yourself if you're feeling a certain way or if you're getting certain results, what are you focusing on? Because where your focus flows, your energy goes. Yeah. Back to the
Hmm.
story. So,
Okay.
I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know where to start. As a company manager, as an assistant director for a school, after school program for a couple of years, and doing program management and stuff, I'm like, okay, what skills do I have that I can bring to the space? And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, Lord, maybe I need to just get my feet wet. Well, I knew I could write captions. I knew that I loved the camera. I knew I could take
Hmm.
pictures. And I knew that I could, emulate people's thoughts and their feelings and their emotions. So I was like, maybe I
Hmm.
should just do social media management, just to kind of get myself, in the game, probably kind of understand what
Hmm.
it's all about and what's not. Well, my first
Right.
charge for
Hmm.
this service, drumroll, please.
Yes.
$385 for 3 months total, not per month,
Wow.
not per month, okay?
Wow.
Total. And it was that,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the movies, but it would say, and it was at that moment I recognized that I messed up.
Right.
Like, like it was at
Right.
that moment that I recognized I needed a coach, because
Yeah.
it was good that I took a leap of faith and that I took the step
Mhm,
that I needed, that God told me to do. But now I needed
mhm.
to apply wisdom and I needed to either buy time
Yeah.
or I needed to DIY it myself and spend time
Mhm,
doing it myself. And what your girl did, I bought time. But at
mhm,
the end of the day, I say all of that to say I charged 385 for 3 months because I didn't
mhm.
understand my value and because I didn't understand the value of my skill set. And it was not
Yeah.
that I didn't see other people charging more in the industry because I told you after I went and I started following a whole bunch of people, I know what they was charging, but
Yeah.
I was still thinking that I was only worth $385 for 3 months
Mm.
total. And I think I was doing at least 15 posts a month and
Wow.
captions and hashtags
Wow.
and stories and reporting at the end of the month,
Wow.
analytics, all that.
Yeah,
right?
man.
So that's just an example of, where your belief and your self-worth comes into play, because the coaches that are out here charging 50K for an hour of their time or whatever, it's not that they might tell you the same thing I'm telling you on this call right now. But
Mhm,
yes, there is time, there is experience, there is other things that go into play. But what I'm telling you is the only difference between me and them is their mindset. They believe it.
mhm, mhm.
So,
Yeah. Nah, that's good. That's good. One other thing that came to mind that you had mentioned once you were talking about how you got on Instagram and it started with like one coach and then you started seeing a whole bunch of other online coaches. It made me think about the role that environment plays in our ability to develop our confidence. Can you speak to that?
ooh, that is such a good question. So, whew, I'm gonna give the person. So I'm from the Caribbean, right? I'm from Anguilla,
Yeah.
and my island is, Lord, don't quote me. 16 miles long, 3 miles wide, about maybe 12,000, 13 if you're stretching people.
Okay.
AKA not a lot of people.
Right.
AKA not a lot of resources, not a lot of places to go, not a lot of outlets, all of that good stuff, right? And so
hmm
for me, I would call myself like a type A and type B person, because I'm very good on the
Okay.
creative, but I'm very good on organization and structure and all of
Okay.
that type of stuff. So for me, I always needed a breath of fresh air. I needed innovative spaces.
Mm,
I needed like-minded people. I needed stimulation to kind of jog my ideas for the clients that I was bringing in, because out of my creativity, I will pour into my clients, right? And
mhm,
so I realized that staying at home and just kind of being in the four walls, not having like a co working space to go to, it just didn't work for me. Or not having other
mm,
business minded people who are doing the online space, because I've come from such a small space. I was probably one
mm.
of the few people who even understood tapping into the online space outside of our little island, right?
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have
Wow.
community at home. It was just me and my laptop.
hmm
And I have more friends online that I've never met in
hmm
person that I do in real
Yeah. Yeah, that's real. I
life.
can
So
relate.
like I can name 10 girls right now who I have
Mhm,
met from back home, who I talk on FaceTime with, who I chat with, who I get business
mhm.
strategy, we co-work, all of that online, and I've never met them. But I would always
Wow.
go to the beach, because I'm like,
Mm,
okay, if I can't, get a co-working space or something, I need to go somewhere that inspires me, somewhere that's relaxing and
mhm.
all of that type of stuff. And it's there that I
Yeah.
would get clarity. It's there that I would get ingenuity. It's there that I would innovate new ideas, where I would decompress. And then I made it a
Mhm.
habit to travel every 3 months. So every three
Mm,
months,
okay.
I came back to Atlanta, and I have a WeWork space,
Mhm,
and I will go to WeWork, and I'll be here for about two months or so, and then I'll go back,
okay.
because
Okay.
environment matters. And I understood the vision that I have for my life and my business. And I
Mhm,
knew that if I did not find spaces and places to be in that mimicked where I want to go and what I want to do, then I would definitely have been stifled, because those thoughts, they're going to eat away
mhm.
at you if you don't combat them with, the opposite of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, one of the things that we talk about here on this podcast is helping coaches to essentially land more clients, multiply their sales using video, email, and podcast. Out of those three, which would you say has been the most effective for you landing new clients?
Video.
Okay, okay, talk about it. So, what strategies have you found that works for you, and why is video king for you?
So, video is king for me because I know who I am. Video is king
Okay.
for me because I know that I have a solution for somebody, at least one person, because
hmm
hey, I didn't go through my life and through my process just for me. So I want to
Right.
show up in a very communicative way, in a very
hmm
user friendly way, to lure you
Mhm.
into an experience with me. And video is a great first touch point to get access to what is it like to meet this person? What is it like to have a
Right.
conversation with this person? What is it like to, hear their voice? She got
Mhm.
accent, or, what is she what does she have? I think that for me, video has been king, simply because it allows me to express the things that I love about myself: my smile, my charisma, the laugh, just kind of
Mhm.
meeting people. I love to talk to people as well. So it's just like I
Yeah,
communicate with people the way that I like to be communicated with. So that's why
that
video is
makes
king
sense.
for me.
Nah, I like that. And with that in mind, what would you say are some strategies that you've used that didn't really pan out the way that you wanted when it came to getting you new clients with video?
That's a good question. So I would say not being strategic in how
Mm,
you execute video
okay.
communication. And I say
What does that look like?
that, so let's say, so I am, because I love video, I do lives, Instagram lives.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
have a podcast right now. And one of the things that I enjoy is creating
Mhm.
the framework, building the storyline. Like, I'm not a script
Mm,
person. You probably would
okay.
never see me reading from a script or typing out a script, because I just speak as I
Mhm.
feel led. But what I will
Right.
do is create a framework. And so before, I would just get on video and I would say what I think that the people want to hear, until I
Mhm.
recognize that I need to know what the people want to hear, and then give them what they
That.
want to hear in a very clear, concise, and complete manner. Because your girl,
Right.
as you can see, if we didn't have a time, we could probably talk all day.
Yo, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but to your point, right? When you are on a social platform, it's all about making the most of the time that you have because oftentimes people's attention spans are short on those platforms.
It's gone. Like, it's so
Yeah.
sad. I'm sorry. I just want to put a bleeper in here for everyone listening. If your
Yeah.
attention span is small, I want to challenge you in 2024 and stop saying, I have a short attention span, so I need it quick. I want to challenge you to stay in a moment and to think, to process,
Mm,
to challenge your patience, to challenge your critical thinking, because nowadays everybody just wants everything in the microwave. And what I'm telling you is, if you want to be a leader, if you want to pave a path, if you want to have an opinion that people value, it's going to take more
mhm.
than a 5 second Instagram or TikTok with a hook on the screen and a caption, a short caption below. It's going to take more than that, okay? That's going to be sustainable for now. But if you really want to be a voice to reckon with in the future and stand with the greats, you're gonna have to produce some value, which will require you to have a longer attention span.
Nah, that's real. That's facts. That's facts. And kind of looking at you and where you're currently at, what would you say are some projects that you're working on that you're hoping to essentially get completed before the end of this year?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. So,
Yeah.
truth be told, with new transitions in life and kind of
Mhm.
migrating and all this different type of stuff, the thing that I really want to solidify is my podcast, which is the Purpose
Mhm.
Troubleshooter podcast, which is thank you, which is a podcast where we purposefully, personally, and professionally live a fulfilled life. So we walk through what are the hurdles and the situations and the trials that we need to troubleshoot in order to live the life that God has called us to. So building that
Mm.
up to a point where it's consistent. We just launched. We're in launching our first season right now. So
Okay.
I'm super excited about, just continuing on with that. But then also
Mhm.
just continuing in my business, continuing to show up
Mhm.
for the people, the creatives who are,
Mhm.
in the state of chaos, who are in the state of trying to build their capacity, who know that they
Mhm.
want to, create agencies, or they want to create tremendous impact, but because they have type A brains, they need a type B person. And so I'm
Yeah.
really kind of focused on that because as we can see, content is a new currency. And so creatives are going to need
Mhm.
a lot more support in making sure that they can focus on their zone of genius while somebody else focuses on the structure and the back end and helps them to grow in the capacity that they need, not just to create, but also to lead. So definitely
Right.
looking forward to just kind of solidifying those two things right now.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yo, that's good. And you guys that are tuning in, definitely make sure you go and check out the podcast. Show her some love and support. Subscribe, leave reviews, all of that good
thank
stuff.
you.
Let her know what y'all think. With that in mind, I'm curious, what would you say are some of the challenges that you've been encountering with those projects so far this year?
So, because podcasting is new to me,
Hmm.
there's so many tips and tricks and guides and instructions and do it this way,
Right.
do it that way, fighting those beliefs, the
Hmm.
beliefs of, okay, nobody's gonna listen, or, oh, this one only got 3 listens, but this one got, 50 listens, and what's wrong with this one? What's not? So it's like, kind of building capacity around a new venture and also
Hmm.
grounding yourself in the thoughts that, okay, outcomes does not depict my value or my worth. It just probably means
Hmm.
that I have to become more skilled at this, or maybe I might need to get another coach, or I might need to spend more time doing more research or building this out on my
Right.
own. So I think that the challenge right now for me is just kind of figuring out what's the real strategy to it, and like,
Hmm.
juggling all the different pieces. Like, there's the back end side of it, but then there's the front facing
Right.
side of it. There's the networking and finding the people. There's the posting, the
Hmm.
social media. There's a whole lot of different parts, especially if you don't have the capital to hire somebody at this point.
Right.
So I think it's just kind of navigating all the things until I can
Hmm.
outsource. That's one challenge. And then I
Hmm.
believe that right now, in navigating the consulting, the operational consulting aspect of what I do, it's just more so building awareness because I'm reinstating my business now that I have moved and just kind of shifting a lot of
Hmm.
things. But it's just
Hmm.
reinstating and bringing awareness to creatives that, yes, it's good for you to have the big goals and have the big dreams, but you're only as strong and as sturdy as your foundation. And your
Hmm.
foundation is with your systems, your foundation is
Yeah.
with your structure. Your foundation is with the quality and the value of your team that you have. And if any of those
Hmm.
burn to the ground, you can also burn your vision away because you're not going to get there alone.
Right. Oh man, yo, that's dope. Well, I definitely wish you the best. Podcasting is my lane, so if you ever have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help in any
Thank
way that I
you.
can. As far as our conversation today, I mean, I feel like you've been dropping gems from the very beginning. And with that, before we go, I would love for you to, take the time to share any last or closing words that you have for our audience, or if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, so I would say, what is one of the most valuable lessons that you have learned? Whether it's through your podcast interviews or even just in your own experiences that you would
Mhm.
offer when it comes to video content and coaches.
Yeah, I would say, to piggyback off of what you said, and like I mentioned, other coaches have mentioned it too, like knowing your why, understanding what it is you've been called to do, who it is you've been called to serve, and standing in that, recognizing that it's not going to come easy. It's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with struggles. But if you know you're in the right lane, then just keep pushing forward. In addition to that, I would say another key aspect that's super important, that was the lesson I took away, that I feel like God had to pour into me last year, was the importance of clarity.
Mm.
Clarity is vitally important when it comes to making sure that we're doing the right things at the right time and working with the right people as well. But this is the caveat to that. that I think is very important. Even if you're at a place where you don't necessarily have all of that clarity, getting started is the most important thing. And I think that goes back to the example that you gave of your own experience, where, when you started out, you gave somebody some major services, for 3 months for only 385. It's like, okay, we could harp on that, we could focus on that and talk about all of the regrets surrounding it, or we can look at the fact that you were able to get started, you were able to take action, and then you were able to learn from that experience, pivot, transition, and get more clarity on what you should be charging, what you should be doing, and who you should be working with. So I would say clarity is vitally important, but that shouldn't stop you from getting started if you haven't yet done that.
That is a really good answer, and I love that so much because that even goes back to like the identity aspect, which is kind of like knowing, where you're going, why you're going, and how's it really going to
Hmm.
bring change. So I think
Right.
that the question for me was any last words or any encouraging words of advice.
Yeah. What would you leave our audience with? They want to build that self confidence. They want more clients. What would you leave them with?
This might seem really simple, but I will say that you're built for this because you're
Mm,
here, because you had the idea, because you have even made a thought or an attempt to go after whatever idea it is that you have, know that that
mhm,
idea is not there by mistake, but it's there guiding you and showing you that you have something special that the world needs. Knowing that if you do not show up, there's someone who's dependent upon your breakthrough and your obedience in this moment, and they won't get to achieve their purpose and their destiny because you chose to be selfish. So today, I'm telling you, it's not about you, it's greater than you. You're built for this. Get up and do it. Practice as much as you need to. Fail, quote unquote, as many times as you need to. But at the end of the day, stop comparing yourself because, listen, that is not even of your DNA, it's not of your nature, and we need to get some things going. There's people waiting on you, so stop playing. Come on, let's do this.
I love it. Yo, so motivating. And with that in mind, I'm sure there are going to be some people out there who are tapped in, who want to work with you, want to learn more about you. How can they get in contact with you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Avern Gums on LinkedIn. My name is okay. So this is a little bit confusing, but I just remembered that I didn't change my last name on LinkedIn because I just got married. But I'm gonna change it. So my name on LinkedIn is Avern Richardson. And my
Okay.
name on Instagram is Avern Richardson. You can connect
Okay.
with me on both platforms. My name on TikTok is Avern.Richardson. Okay. So you
Okay.
can connect with me on those platforms. I will actually be launching for Q1 a smooth operations offer, which is a 90-minute audit geared towards creatives who are saying, like, look, Avern, I know that I want this year to be my first 5 figure year, 6 figure, multi 6 figure year, and I need the structure and the systems to
Mm,
create capacity, not just for me as a leader, but for my teams and for my clients. And so I come in to assess all of your operations from your offer optimization down to your organizational skills and leadership capacity, and then looking at your actual tech systems to see what we got here working with and leaving you recommendations within 90 minutes. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned. It has not launched yet at the recording of this podcast, but by the time you hear it, it will probably be out there. So definitely check it out.
yes, yo, this has been absolute joy and honor. You came on here and you definitely dropped so many gems on us. I appreciate you for that. If you're ever interested in coming back and being a guest on the podcast, you got an open invitation. But with that being said, thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today. I truly appreciate it. And, I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with you today.
Thank you so much, Jay. It has been a pleasure. I am so honored to even be re-invited before we even ended the podcast. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're definitely gonna get an invite from me because I know that you have a lot to share too. Just hearing a little bit about your story, I definitely want to dive a little bit more into that too. So thank you so much once again.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I look forward to it. I know it's gonna be another good time.
For sure.
Thank you.